her blanket.
First of all, I'm the one that got rid of Roe v. Wade.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion?
There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
Women will be happy, healthy, confident, and free. You will no longer be thinking about abortion. So all they talk about abortion. You will no longer be abandoned, lonely, or scared. You will no longer have anxiety. You will be protected, and I will be your protector.
It's a really powerful ad, and the Harris campaign put it out today. I think it's really important that they say that now, 13 days out to the election. They need to reset the narrative because Donald Trump does such a good job at making reporters talk about what he wants to talk about, making his shiny object the object of their affection. And an ad like this is really powerful. One, I love that there's no spoken word except for the woman in that ad who mentions her daughter who died. And then it's all text. It's so powerful. And then secondly, the only other word that you hear in that whole ad is from Donald Trump. All the audio is Trump talking about how he will attack and hurt women on something that they had control of for multiple generations. So I think it's a powerful ad, and it's going to reset the narrative as we head 13 days into the election. It will be running in swing states, which is super important. And so before we get to the main story, I just wanted to show that because I found it to be very moving, and I think it just goes to show what the stakes are in this election. Okay, so now on to the main story. Mark Halperin, who is a reporter, he has a YouTube show. He says that he's been pitched a story that could, quote, end Trump's campaign. Very interesting. And so this is what you expect when you're 13 days out to the election, that, campaigns are going to offload whatever oppo they have, usually like the silver bullet that they think they might have for the campaign. This is when it's going to come out. And this Mark Halperin is not someone who's just like some random guy. Mark Halperin is among one of the first reporters to say that President Biden was going to withdraw from the race. He said that weeks before anyone else. And so he is definitely within the know. And he said that the story that has been pitched, a quote, certain story that has been pitched, could, if true, derail Donald Trump's 2020 presidential campaign. He says, quote, "I know of one story, I don't believe it's true, but if it's true, it would end Donald Trump's campaign," Halperin said, adding that he's aware of various efforts to influence the race's outcome with less than 2 weeks until the election. Halperin highlighted the nature of last-minute campaign tactics, comparing them to an attempt to pull a, quote, Comey. He was referring to the former FBI director James Comey's actions during the 2016 election. Remember that? When just 11 days before the election, James Comey actually essentially gave us Donald Trump. So Halperin himself is actually not pursuing this story, though he was pitched it. But just like we saw with the Trump-Vance Oppo leak when his campaign was hacked, that eventually did come out, even though WAPO, New York Times, The Atlantic, every mainstream outlet got that piece of Oppo. They never pushed press or published any sort of story on it. It eventually did come out. So my guess would be that multiple people have this Oppo, and it'll be days before we see what this is actually all about. But frankly, I don't know what else people need to hear, because there are stories out that say that Donald Trump has praised Hitler. There are stories that say that John Kelly, in his own words, described Donald Trump as a fascist. That means that Donald Trump believes in military rule, and that people would not be able to decide who their leaders are, that elections would stop happening, and that the military would enforce its might on its own citizens. That's what Donald Trump believes. And Kamala Harris is actually out today with a really forceful reply to that. And I wanted to watch that with you right now.
confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him.
And not the point, but she looks fierce. She looks fierce. Also, she looks so presidential. Like, imagine if this was behind the seal of the president of the United States. It's just such a small leap. We're just so close to it happening. Okay, I'll shut up. We'll keep watching.
He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally. One that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify, in his mind, as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials. It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room. And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there, and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want? Thank you.
I mean, I don't know what else the American people need to hear, and it's so terrifying that the polls are close. The polls are close. Now, I don't know if that necessarily means that they are close. I've read a lot of reports that Republicans are flooding the zone with junk polls in order to make the averages of the polls go more towards Donald Trump's favor. I've read a lot about that. So it could be that we are experiencing a red mirage in the polling, and that Kamala Harris is, though within the margin of error, it could be that she is much further ahead than we know, because I just can't imagine. I just don't know. I mean, if we elect him, we won't. But if we were to, I just don't think I would understand the country that we live in. So anyway, thanks for watching. Sorry, it's like echoey. I'm in Provincetown, and this is what we got until Sunday. So hope this is okay for you for now, and bear with me. And I will see you next time. Thanks for joining.